Alright guys, so good afternoon. So this video I want to show you another method you can use to sew your English trouser. The cutting remains the same. Now the sewing is also the same, but there's a slight change in making of your pockets, your wet pocket, and generally. So just watch to the very end and make sure you compare the both methods and choose the one that is easier for you. But bear in mind that the both methods will give you the same result. So let's get down to the sewing proper. The cutting is also the same. The same plumb line method is what I used in the first video I sent, and also this one as well. So but just I want to show you another method you can use to sew and then still achieve the same result. So let's get down to the sewing proper. Here is the pocketing, which is measured at 13 by 13. Then I have gummed the panels properly. So you place the pocket in this form, and then you stitch from the notched point. Now the stitching will be very close to the line of the folding, stitch to the very point, and then you also make sure you re-notch on the lining, and then open it up and slash out this edge, remove the lining, and then slash out this very edge, cut it all through to this very point. Then after which fold it backwards and then stitch from here. The sewing will be 0.3 thereabout. So stitch all through that very point. After you have stitched there, cut your threads, and then cut out the threads here as well. Then you are going to hold the edge of the lining this way and then stitch that point. So as you can observe, the fabric edge here has the English mouth, so that was why we always do that extension there. So this one you don't need to weave or fold because it won't fray, so you can just stitch it all along that way. Cut the threads, and then you bring your pocket facing. Place your pocket facing in this form at the inner part of the lining. Place in this form. You can now fold the edge, or you can weave if you want to weave. So folding here is what I'm doing. So fold the tip there, and then you sew all along that way. So you fold all through that way, fold all through this way, fold all through this way, and then make sure you stitch all along to this very point. So after this now, cut your threads, and then you fold the lining backwards, just in this form, and then start from the down, and we start stitching. Start from the down there, stitch and give it a curve. Then stop somewhere there, notch the lining to the very point your thread ended, and then trim out the excesses. After this, you tuck it in this form. You bring out the edges properly. Then you top stitch. You top stitch at the points of the pockets. Top stitch at the points of the pockets. Top stitch all through this way. Stitch all through this way. up stitch all through that way. And once you get to that point, arrange the edges properly, and that's all you need to do. So we have sewn the first pocket, so we'll do the next one, and then before that you have to block the pocket properly. So you stitch down these points, you sew it down by half an inch, don't exceed the pocket notching. Cut your threads as well, and then the next you also do is to stitch the up area of the pocket. So you stitch here as well, making sure you lap and balancing properly. Then measure from there, measure 2.5 from there, and then stitch all along. Stitch all along, then we'll cut out the excesses. So here, this is how you do your first inner pocket. So I will do the next one and show you how to do the continuation.
Outfits popping in daylight, mixing shades to feel just right, drawing styles that take their flight. Fashion spark ignites the night. Threads of inspiration spin. Come on in, let's just begin. Every clip a world within. Join the flare under my skin. Creation flowing like a stream. Fashion bold and never mean. Unveil magic from our dream. Every sketch a fashion theme. Come on in, let's just begin. Every clip a world within. Join the flare under my skin. Creation flowing like a stream. Fashion bold and never mean. Unveil magic from my dream. Every sketch a fashion theme.
All right, so now we want to fix the lining. I'm done with the second pocket. So the lining was cut as well, which I taught us in the first video on how to cut the lining. So you start from here and then you stitch. Now the essence of showing you these things again is for more clarifications. In case you did not get the first one I did, so you will get the second one. So you stitch all along this area. And bear in mind that the lining will be a bit bigger than the bed trouser panel. So you make sure you cut it like 2 inches excess or thereabout, 2.5 or 3 inches, depends on how much extent you want to have. And then here you fold the lining in this form, stitch a bit and then fold it in this form. Make sure you fold it towards the crotch area. Then stitch at the folding must be at the middle of the trouser panel, right? Stitch all along to the very end, and then stitch it down. Stitch it down. So after this now, we'll go and weave. After weaving, we do our zip, and then we go to web pockets. I'll also show you the processes in all of this. After this now, let's go and weave, and then I'll come back to continue the whole process. So we are done with the lining. So let's go and weave. Here we want to start doing our darts for the back pocket. So the dart measurement is 5.5. Then you notch to that very point. After the notching, you fold it. Make sure that you notch the both panels together. So 5.5, and then fold in this form. Then you get the exact point, exact line you want to dart it from, and you bring your chalk. Now indicate that depth of 3.5. Then the width of the dart, or the leg of the dart, will be half an inch. So 3.5 inch this way, and then you dart to this very point. After this darting, you go and gum with gum stay before we start creating our welt pockets. So do the same thing on the other side, which I will also do right here before we proceed. Place it as well on that same point, 3.5 inches deep by the width of half an inch. Make sure you measure 5.5 inch from the straight line of the back panel, 5.5 inch. Then you stitch all along to this very point, 3.5 inch deep. Then you dart to the very end. Make sure the dart point mouth is as sharp as possible. Don't make a curvy stitch there for the dart. It must be as straight as possible, as you can see how mine is looking. Then let's go and iron gum the back, then we'll come back to continue. Here you iron out the darts and then cut out gum stay. The gum stay will be around 3 inches width, well, a width of 8. And you place at the end of the dart, at the midpoint of the dart, then place like, let's say, 1.5 inch across, then gum. Now in gumming, you also make sure the edges of the darts are properly ironed out. You iron out all through, iron out all through, iron all through. So once you gum, this is how it looks like from the back. It must be relaxed as this. You do the same thing as well on the other dart area. First of all, you iron the dart first to remove any squeeze or rumple. Iron both sides of the dart, and then iron the tip. That's very important. That should be relaxed. Then you place your gum stay, fold into two this way, and place at the midpoint, lapping 1.5 inch above the dart, and then you iron, making sure that you straighten the fabric so that it doesn't squeeze at the underneath. After this, you can now start creating your work pocket, which I will show you on the video. You start marking your dart points, making sure you retain the same 3.5 and then 5 inches. From the center point, you mark 2.5 from the dart on both ends, 2.5, 2.5, and then you rule your chalk. The line must touch at the tip of the dart. So you do the same thing on the other part as well. So I will do that, then show you the continuation on the pocket creation. Alright, so here, after you have done the gumming of the darts, now the next thing you will do here will be to get your fabric placed properly in this form, and then you put your lining under, and then you stitch down, pin and stitch. Now the stitching you are doing is to enable you have a perfect fixing. So after this, then you cut your thread, and then you bring your plackets and fix accordingly. So you bring your plackets all through this way, you have gone already, which you have seen the coming stages of the placket. So once you have brought your placket in this form, then you place at the point where you have sewn the line, and then you stitch the tip from there, 0.25. 0.25 is the extent that you need to stitch the width. So here you stitch this point, 0.25, stitch that very point, and then double thread it there. Then bring the next one, and then you make sure it doesn't exceed that line. Bring the next one, place, make the mouths to meet each other. Then you also stitch again. So this second stitch now will be the same 0.25 because the pocket opening is suggested to be half an inch after creation, except when you're making double mouth welt pockets, which I'll show you in our subsequent videos. So here you stitch all through to this point and making sure that your lines are as straight as possible. And then you cut out the threads, cut out your threads, cut out the threads, cut out the threads. And now you fold into two in this form. Give a notch at the midpoint of your sewn line. Cut it out. When you get to 1 inch before that, fold the placket to give way. Then give a V notch to the very point where the threading ended. Make sure you don't cut so close to the threaded line. So, and don't exceed the line as well with your notching. So once you have gotten to that stage, carefully cut out this to reach the very end, and then shift the other one as well, and then you notch, give a V notch to reach that very point where you have sewn, but don't exceed that point. It's very important. Do the same thing on the other side as well. Notch and then push it out in this form. Give a notch to get to that very point. Don't exceed the line. And then you notch this other edge as well. So these notches you are doing now is very essential, and you must carefully do this. Take your time in doing all of this. Here, this is what it looks like, and then tuck it in this way. Tuck it this way, and then you're going to fold the down part to be exact of the size of the opening you have created. So it must correspond. Now, the essence of the corresponding is to make sure that when you tuck in the welt pocket inside, it will hold firmly and there will be no gap on the opening. So bring out the edges. As you can see how beautiful it's looking already. So bring out the edges, make sure that it's lapping properly. So this is what I have. So after this now, the next we will do is to raise the lining, the main trouser up, and then stitch down the angular fold, that angular notching you have made. Sew it down from that point, and then cut out the excesses of the fabric in this form. Cut the threads. Fold again in this form as well. Then you stitch the angular edge, making sure your hands are as straight as possible. Cut it out this way, and then this is what you have. So I'll go ahead now to lock the pocket. So the underneath pocket, stitch the angle or the fabric underneath the exact pocket. This helps to retain or maintain a strong and tight um, placket at the pocket, right? Cut your threads. After which, next you will do now, we need to fold the placket to lap on the lining just this way, and then we stitch it down, sew it down out through to this very point. You make sure it laps this way, and then you cut out the threads as well. You cut your threads as well, and then after which the next you will do, cut the threads, fold the placket here, then hold it from the up part, just what I just did now, and then stitch it all along that way. Cut out your threads, cut your threads in this form, and this is the result so far. Then bring the lining and lap it in this form, making the lining to lap like 1.5 inch or 2 inches above the length of the trouser. Then fold one edge, start from here, and then stitch it very close to the end part of the trouser panel. Give a U-stitch. Now the essence of this U-stitch is to lock the pocket edges and the up part before you lock the lining itself. So stitch all along that line and also stitch down in this form. So you have closed the up area of the pockets. Then fold the lining to go in this way. Start from up and start to top stitch. So while you are top stitching, once you get to that point where the shorter one is, you now double fold again to meet it. So make sure the top stitching will hold the both of them. So just fold accordingly in this form, and make sure you drag everything to lap properly, and then go all along the base. Now this top stitching will help to reinforce the strongness of the pocketing. Fold the one underneath, fold it the sides under, just this way, and then put out your threads as shown,
colors bold, refined,
and then fold all through,
intertwined.
then stitch,
From the canvas to the screen,
stitch all along this way.
styling dreams like you've never seen.
And after this, the next you will do now will be to lock
Blend in harmony.
the seam at the waistline of the back panel of the trouser. Put your threads and then lock it from here. So with this, you have achieved seeing your inner pockets on your trouser. So I'll do the next one and I'll come back to show you the results.
Mystery defined is standing by. Outfits popping in daylight, mixing shades to feel just right. Drawing styles that take their flight. Fashion spark ignites the night. Threads of inspiration spin. Come on in, let's just begin. Every clip, a world within. Join the flare under my skin. Creation flowing like a stream. grab my sketch and make the line. Patterns flow like vintage wine. Dress in colors bold, refined. With fashioned art I'm intertwined. From the canvas to the screen, styling dreams like you've never seen. Textures blend in harmony, creating fashion symphony. Hey there folks, don't be shy. Hit that like, subscribe, apply. Comment down if you feel fly. Mystery defined is standing by. Outfits popping in daylight, mixing shades to feel just right. Drawing styles that take their flight. Fashion spark ignites the night. Threads of inspiration spin. Come on in, let's just begin. Every clip, a world within.
Thing you're going to do now is to weave. So you weave everything all around. Then before we now start fixing our zip, I'll weave everything. Then before the zip fixing comes into play.